Welcome to the Lend Academy podcast, episode number 188. This is your host, Peter Renton, founder of Lend Academy and co-founder of the Lend It Fintech Conference. Today's episode is sponsored by Lend It Fintech USA 2019, the world's leading event in financial services innovation. It's going to be happening April 8th through 9th at Moscone West in San Francisco. We're going to be covering digital banking, blockchain, financial health, and of course, online lending, as well as other areas of fintech. There will be over 5,000 attendees, over 250 sponsors, and registration is now open. Just go to lendit.com to register. Today on the show, I am delighted to welcome Gorelov. He is the CEO and co-founder of Kasisto. Now, Kasisto is a fascinating company. They've been around not that long, but they have developed a conversational AI platform for banking. So we talk about exactly what that is. I didn't know, and I learned a lot in this conversation, actually. We talk about how it actually works in practice. We actually go through an example of a bank that has implemented Kasisto's technology into their bank and the difference that it's made for them. We talk about how these products learn, what makes them just really dedicated to banking, how they're able to how they're able to focus on that particular sector. We talk about the future of interaction. We obviously there's voice and text and how that's playing out, and what is also coming down the track shortly at Kasisto. It was a fascinating interview. Hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the podcast, Zor.
Thank you, Peter. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Okay, no problem. So I like to get these things started by giving the listeners a little bit of background. So maybe you could tell us some of the things that you've done in your career. You've had a pretty interesting career to date. So why don't you share with the listeners some of the highlights?
Yeah, I'm a software engineer by training, and I worked in the software companies, but in mid-90s or so, I decided to fulfill my life's dream and start my first software company, which I did. The company was called buzzcompany.com. And at Buzz Company, we built enterprise messaging software, some Fortune 500 companies using that software. And then from there, I moved on and started a company called SpeechCycle. And SpeechCycle build speech recognition activated virtual assistants for telcos. So I started doing that way back. Telstra, Time Warner, Cablevision, Cox Communications were all customers. Both of these businesses were venture funded with successful exits. And then in 2013, I started Kasisto. I was co-founding CEO of all these ventures. And before that, my interest with speech recognition and natural language technology goes back many years, when I worked at Bell Labs on some of the early speech recognition and natural language projects that were sponsored by DARPA. And we were running the systems on super mini computers that were largest of the size of the conference room that I'm sitting in now. And this technology over the past 20 to 25 years made tremendous progress and enabled us to get to where we are here, and enables companies like Kasisto create this really amazing human-like conversations between AI systems and computers.
Right. Yep. That's interesting. So what was the idea that led to the founding of Kasisto?
So first of all, Kasisto is a spin-off from Stanford Research Institute, or SRI. It's a very famous research lab that has decades of artificial intelligence experience. I think they started working with some of the systems in the 70s. So one of the largest independent R&D labs in the world. And SRI also has a very efficient and well-known venture and licensing program. There was the IP that gets created at SRI, gets commercialized and licensed to other companies, or sometimes they create ventures. Many of your listeners probably heard of Siri, Apple Siri. Siri was created at SRI before it was sold to Apple. And actually, history of Kasisto goes back to Siri. There was a team of scientists that at SRI that stayed on and continued to work on next generation a virtual assistant system, which ultimately became Kai. And then, of course, we're using Kai in banking. So, in a way, in the artificial intelligence way, Siri and Kai are related. We like to say that Siri is Kai's older cousin, not as smart in banking, but part of the family nonetheless.
Right.
To answer your question, what led me to this, look, I've been fascinating with speech recognition, natural language, and AI systems for most of my career. As I said, I worked early on at Bell Labs, and I believe that conversational user interface will continue to become more and more of sort of main way users interact with computers, same way we interact with each other, same way you and I are communicating now. What led to Kasisto idea is this basic premise that as banks go through a digital transformation, the relationship between consumers and banks become very transactional. Mm-hmm. People check balances, transfer money, they look things up, and they move on. And I think oftentimes the sort of emotional connection that gets established between brands or banks in this case and consumers is getting lost. And our belief early on was the human-like conversations was a way for banks to continue to engage with customers on digital channels and help them better understand their money, help them make better decisions about their money, all using human-like exchanges.
Okay. So then what is the difference between, like Siri, or obviously there's Alexa, and, Google's got a product. I mean, there's lots of these voice assistants now. So what's the difference between Kai? I mean, you said Kai is really for banking and finance. So how is it similar, and how is it different to these other mainstream, voice recognition systems?
Well, first of all, Kai is a conversational AI platform. Mm-hmm. Banks use Kai to build virtual assistants and chatbots that interact with their customers. So think of Kai as a banking brain that bank can make their own, right? They can create their own conversations. They can present those conversations in their own ways on mobile devices, on their websites, on Alexa, on Facebook Messenger, and Kai knows how to have these conversations. What makes Kai unique and different is that it is trained on banking, and it knows and understands banking. It knows, debits and credits and withdrawals and deposits. It knows that current account is the same thing as checking account. It knows about FDs and CDs. It knows about account opening. That's what makes Kai unique. And plus, it comes with the infrastructure that allows banks to rapidly deploy the systems and customize and brand those systems.
Right.
And the other thing that makes Kai unique, Kai is not a search-like experience where you go on the website, you search, and you get 10 responses. Kai is not a search engine. Kai is a do engine. It actually, you can ask a question, and not only Kai answers the questions, it will help you get things done. So for example, you can go to Kai and say, hey, I'd like to make a payment on my credit card. And Kai will come back and say, okay, well, I see that your balance is $1,000. Do you like to make a minimum payment, or you'd like to pay it off? And you may say, well, I'd like to pay it off, but do I have enough money in my checking account? And Kai will come back and say, well, you don't have enough money in checking account, but I see that you have enough money in savings. Would you like to transfer? So it enables this human-like conversation and help consumers get things done, and ultimately it helps consumers make better financial decisions about their money.
Right. Okay. So it's really, because I can ask my bank through Alexa what my account balance is and what my credit card balance is, but I guess it's pretty rudimentary. What you're saying is you've got an engine that can really do a whole bunch of different things. So maybe we could start with an example. I know you've got some high-profile banks that you have signed up. Why don't you just take one of those, some of the publicly available information, and just tell us how they're actually implementing your technology in their bank?
Oh, of course. Well, before I do that, let me explain to you a little bit about what conversational AI is.
Okay, that's probably a good idea.
And I thought, conversational AI is really about enabling human-to-human-like conversations between humans and machines.
Mm-hmm.
Conversational AI is not about adding voice recognition or natural language to enable some of the features that users already do in their mobile banking apps on their websites. Right. That is not that interesting, right? You don't necessarily, you know how to transfer money in your mobile banking app. You don't need to go and voice activate this feature, right? Some banks may choose to do that, but that's not a must-have. Where conversational AI becomes interesting, where users can start interacting with banks using their own language. Like for the first time, we give, Kai allows banks to put a microphone or give a text back for their users, and their users go in and tell banks what they want. Mm-hmm. Just think about the power of it. And what people say are thousands and thousands of different things that they want from their banks. So conversational AI is really creating net new experiences. In other words, conversational AI is about enabling users to do things that they're not able to do on their mobile apps or on banking websites, which tend to be very transactional, right? Mm-hmm. What did I spend on Uber last week? Right? Can you go quickly get answer to a question in your mobile app? Right? You probably can. Right? It's not only you can really do that in your mobile app, you probably won't even call your bank to ask this question. Think about calling your bank and saying, "Hey, I want to know what I spent on Uber last week." They'll probably hang up on you, right?
Right.
So the conversational AI is really about creating net new experiences for users that they can get from their banking services. And some of this experience, they didn't exist before. Can I afford to go on vacation? Should I buy a car? There's so many things that people express that are just simply not doable through any other means.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'll give you a story. From one of our customers to answer your question. A DBS, Development Bank of Singapore, is one of the largest banks in Southeast Asia. The CEO of the bank decided to build their international expansion strategy around this new mobile-only bank that they call Digibank. And they decided to launch this bank in India first. Mm-hmm. So this is mobile-only bank, no branches, no call centers. When they launched their mobile app, it had two unique features. One was 90-second paperless account opening that was enabled through India's Aadhaar biometrics identification system, and a virtual assistant called Digibot that was powered by Kai. Mm-hmm. We trained Kai to answer thousands of different questions about banking. So today, the bank has 2.5 million customers. Kai is handling 80% of all interactions between consumers and banks through artificial intelligence. Only 20% or so of these sessions go to live chat agents. That enabled the bank to run Digibank in India at 1/5 of the cost of a traditional bank. Mm. Mm-hmm. Kai today supports everything from customer onboarding. How do I open an account? What documents do I need to open an account? Where is nearest biometrics identification center? To customer education. Which products do I have? What interest rates do you charge? How do I upgrade my account? To customer service. I'm traveling to England. Do I have to pay ATM fees when I get cash? So this is the power of Kai that allowed a major bank in Southeast Asia to launch completely new digital and mobile-only offering and run it at a very cost-effective manner. We believe that virtual assistants for both traditional banks as well as challenger banks, are becoming a must-have to enable any kind of true digital transformation.
Okay, so then how are you, like, how's it actually being implemented? Is this through, and obviously if you're answering 80% queries from customers, is this through virtual chat, like a chatbot type thing, or are there other delivery mechanisms for it?
That's an excellent question that you asked. So Kai is built into Digibank's mobile app, and users go in and they invoke Kai and interact with it. All interactions or 99.9% of all interactions that are handled by Kai today are handled through at DBS Digibank are handled through text.
Okay.
Now, generally speaking, voice adoption in banking is interesting. We have customers running Alexa, and then the demand continues to grow, but we are not really seeing massive adoption from consumers on our own systems of a voice as a preferred modality for interactions. Majority of our interactions across all of our systems are text-based.
Mm-hmm. And are you sort of agnostic on whether it's voice or text when you're, as far as, is it the same kind of behind the scenes engine that drives this, or are you really geared up for text?
No, we're absolutely agnostic. We view voice as another modality, and then consumers can choose to interact with voice, text, or touch. So from that perspective, Kai is what the industry lingo is called as multimodal system. Kai is also an omni-channel system. You can start interacting with Kai on Alexa, but then log in to your mobile app and continue those interactions. So it supports, and it knows which channel you're on, and it knows how to optimize interactions for a channel. So, you mentioned your bank and Alexa, and I don't know who your bank is, and I know how the Alexa implementation is done. But, some banks continue to build siloed channels. Right? They build something from Alexa, then they go build, a conversational experience for perhaps their mobile app or Facebook Messenger. Our vision for Kai is a brain that can interact with users and optimize those interactions independent on the channel they're on. For example, if you ask Alexa, show me my last 10 transactions, you probably don't want to sit in the kitchen and hear 10 cryptic names for your transactions.
Right.
Now, when you ask that question of Kai now is smart enough to know that this question is coming from Alexa, and you'll get a response that says, okay, well, over the past 10 transactions, you spend $582. Would you like me to send the list to your mobile app? And then it can initiate the transaction, and you get a list of transactions on your mobile device, which is much more meaningful customer experience. In addition to that, to the sort of ability to handle multiple channels and optimize your experiences for every channel, you can start with voice on Alexa, you can continue with text or touch on mobile device. Kai can also personalize your interactions depending on the user type or user segment. In other words, if you say, I'd like to get a credit card, or I'd like to apply to your gold card, depending on user type, if you are a high net worth individual versus millennial, you may get different behaviors from Kai.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's really interesting. So I guess one of the things I'm interested in is that how is Kai learning? Like, obviously it's conversational AI, and it's extremely complex to be able to have a detailed conversation. And how is it getting better? What are the things? Is it just because it's learning from all the interactions, or maybe you could just tease out a little bit about how it is able to improve itself?
So that's another good question that we often get asked, and to be frank with you, there's a lot of hype around AI.
Yep.
We hear some people talk about self-learning, and it's a very very popular topic. Kai uses a combination of supervised and unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is when Kai training is done by people, And a supervised learning is where we use machine learning technologies to improve Kai over time. And the process of training actually is shared by Kasisto, but also our customers. The systems, when they get deployed, it's just like hiring people in call center. They require some monitoring, some training, some performance improvements, and we give our customers tools where in real time they can monitor behavior of Kai-powered virtual assistants, and they can actually affect that behavior and train Kai. And of course, we have our own teams looking at Kai interactions and improving Kai performance as well. I often get asked by some banking executives about Kai and self-learning, and I always go back to an example of a Microsoft bot called Tai. I don't know if you've heard the story. 2016, I think Microsoft launched a Twitter bot, and it allowed users to train Tai. And then, the users trained Tai, and they created a bot that was sexist and racist, and Microsoft was not pleased with the result.
Right.
And the outcome of this experiment. Banking world is very, very different. It's a highly regulated industry, and banks are very, very careful about what their virtual assistants are trained on and how they interact with their users, what they say, what they shouldn't say. So it's a very tightly controlled and optimized process that relies on a combination of both supervised and unsupervised learning as well.
Right. Okay. I got it. So it's interesting to me that you've got, with this explosion of this voice interaction at home, and then you've got, I was actually a bit surprised to say you've got 99.9% of interactions with your one client DBS that's doing it through its text, it's a chatbot type text messages. Are there examples of banks that are really moving more towards voice, because it feels like voice is really becoming this sort of way we interact, but where are you at with this journey from text or voice? Are there some banks that are doing a lot more voice than text?
I think banks that are doing voice are mostly doing Alexa-based implementations with us. Now, the issues of data privacy obviously are a consideration. Right? When you're talking to your Alexa, your banking data is going to the Amazon cloud, and banks have different perspectives on that. Some banks are more open to this, others are not as open. But I think that the voice implementations are mostly, and of course, Bank of America's virtual assistant, Erica. I'm sure you've heard Bank of America launching it. Mm-hmm. I think they're on the record saying that text and touch are by far two more popular modalities for the interactions as well. So I think that the question is why, right? And most people on their mobile, it's one thing when you're sitting in your kitchen and you're asking Alexa about your balance. However, you probably, when you are on public transportation and subway or bus, you probably don't want to, get your phone out and start talking to you about your finances. And that's I think there is a social factor that needs to be considered. And of course, most consumers in public settings like that are also worried about the privacy. And of course, privacy is not what you say to a banking app. The privacy is really what you hear back, right? Because right. You can ask your banking app, "What's my balance?" What you don't want to happen is, people in New York City on the subway to hear that you have $10,000 in your checking account.
Mm-hmm. Right. That is true. So,
but there are ways to manage that as well, right? Because the smart assistants will actually detect that user has headphones and they can play it back. And however, if you're on your speakerphone, you probably just want to display it on your device and not sound it out for the users.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So then, there's other companies pursuing, AI-powered products in financial services. I mean, we've got, there's IBM Watson are doing some things. Google's doing some things. What do you see these companies as competitors to you, or are you kind of, working together with them? How do you interact with the big tech companies?
Well, we're focused on banking, and we do have competitors. Obviously, we see them in our accounts. Our focus is also on what our customers are asking us to do, and our customers are asking us to build virtual assistants that are knowledgeable about banking, that can help users get things done in banking, that are secure and are easy to manage. So that's been our focus, and we're doing it in banking. Kai is trained on millions and millions of banking specific utterances. If you start with Google or IBM, you probably need to have enough data to make your virtual assistant smart from day one, and that requires time.
Right, for sure. So then, are you working with any of the more of the online banks and the online financial services firms that there's lots of online lenders out there that would really benefit from a service like this, or are you focused purely on the banking sector?
We are primarily focused on working with large banks. However, we're also engaged with challenger banks and some fintechs as well. Depending on their maturity cycle and how many customers they have and the customer acquisition goals, we are definitely looking at the market, and it's of great interest for us.
Right.
And then if you think about our customers, right, I mentioned Digibank. Digibank effectively a part of DBS. That is its version of online bank. So we're working with both, with traditional banks, but also we're engaged with online bank. In fact, I think 2 weeks from now, we'll be making a major announcement about Kai being implemented in one of the largest online banks in the world.
Okay. Well, this will be published. We are recording this in early February, and it'll actually be published in more than 2 weeks from right at this moment. So I will make sure to link to that in the show notes when we actually publish that, so people can know what you're referring to.
Yep.
Okay, so we're running out of time, but just a couple more questions. I'm really interested in. Do you think we are going to? I mean, let's look out 5 years, and how are we going to interact with our financial institutions? Do you think it will still be this sort of mainly text with a little bit of voice, or is there going to be a shift?
Well, I think consumers will choose whether they want voice or text, and I think that will be natural progression as voice systems mature, become more secure. I think that there will be more voice usage naturally. It's a major convenience feature. But I think will be more interesting in 5 years is AI systems that will help democratize and personalize financial advice. I think there's a unique opportunity for conversational assistants to capture best knowledge, best practices that exist today in the best minds in finance, and deliver that advice, deliver that guidance, and help consumers, help investors make better financial decisions, help them improve their financial well-being. I think that over the next 5 years, that's where the value in the conversational systems will start to happen.
Right.
And the voice and text, I think consumers will choose whatever channel is more appropriate for them. I do expect to see more voice. For me, most interesting part is really enabling these conversations to democratize and personalize financial advice and guidance.
Right. No, that makes sense. It's going to be super interesting. I feel like there's a wide open space there that is yet to be occupied by anybody for exactly what you're describing. Okay, so last question. So then, what are you working on today? Let's sort of bring it back a little bit into the near future. What are you working on today that is most exciting at Kasisto?
Well, we're working on a number of very interesting things. First of all, our roots were in the retail banking, and now we have customers applying Kai and deploying Kai for business banking and corporate banking use cases. In other words, we're taking Kai and expanding its capabilities in finance in new areas. right? Whether you're a small business or you're CFO, Fortune 500 company, now you can interact with Kai, not just about your personal bank account, but about the wires and payrolls and other things. So that's the expansion to a new area of finance is of interest for us. The other area that we're looking at, we are developing more tools and more infrastructure and more APIs to make it even easier for banks to deploy, manage, and improve Kai. So these are the two initiatives that we're focused on: creating assistants that are broader in their knowledge about finance, but also create assistants that are enabling banks to deploy Kai more widely and make it easier, more efficient to manage and extend Kai. Ultimately, we see Kai as a conversational fabric that is used across financial institutions to communicate with their various constituencies using human-like conversations, powered by AI, of course.
Of course. Okay. Well, that's fascinating. It really is. You've got a really interesting company, Zor, and I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
I think Zor is the third guest in the last 6 months that has talked about this same thing, about this intelligent assistant that has, a wealth of financial knowledge that can help us navigate our financial lives. And, we're not there yet, but with all of the technology that Kasisto is building, all of the voice-powered devices that are out there, it doesn't take much of a stretch to see that within, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, but certainly in the near future, we are going to have an assistant that will be virtual and it will be personalized to us, and it will gather the world's knowledge of finances specifically pertaining to your situation, and it will allow you to make better financial decisions. I actually think this is super exciting. It's a way to really help people make better decisions and do things that are beneficial for their lives and not necessarily hurting themselves. Because the one thing that I've learned in the last few years is that it's difficult for people to really embrace what is best for them, and they really need a personalized guide, I think, to help them along the way. Anyway, on that note, I will sign off. I very much appreciate you listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Today's episode was sponsored by Lendit Fintech USA 2019, the world's leading event in financial services innovation. It's happening April 8th through 9th at Moscone West in San Francisco. It's going to be the largest fintech event held in the Bay Area in 2019. We'll be covering online lending, blockchain, digital banking, and much more. You can find out all about it and register at lendit.com.